best leaders are role models. The best leaders are not the leaders who tell you what to do. They're the leaders who take you along the journey. And they're willing to share where they are today, how they've gotten there, the lessons that they've learned along the way, and help you be the best version of yourself. Hello, everyone. Thank you for hanging in. I know I'm standing between you and whatever you have planned after this. So I also know that you've soaked up a lot of data so far today. So I come with stories. I've been in the HR space over 27 years, and I have quite a bit of story that ties into employee well-being. I've chosen the 3 that have good endings, so stick with me. Have a show of hands, how many of you have been in an organization that negatively impacted your well-being? Okay, more than half the room. How many of you have been in organizations where you've been the cause of someone else's well-being being negatively impacted? Ooh, we have a few brave souls, right? So we'll talk a little bit about my experiences on both fronts, the lessons that I've learned along the way, what I've done differently, the people who have really helped me, and I'll make sure that I give big kudos to my husband because he is my main well-being champion. He's the one who takes all of my my venting as it relates to my well-being. So thank you for being here this afternoon, and hope you enjoy my stories. So Andy mentioned my children. This was taken last Mother's Day, not this past Mother's Day. This is 2023. My 5 children are in this photo with me, one of the happiest days of my life. This past Mother's Day, there wasn't a new photo to replace it because Davina, who's now 22, just graduated from Arizona State University in Arizona in the United States. And the moving process got really hectic for our family. And so Mother's Day took a back burner to Davina transitioning, and Matthew had a soccer game on Mother's Day. Who does that? That should be canceled, right? It should be a no soccer day. So Ronaldo is 28, Davina is 22, Matthew is 10, Elizabeth is 9, and Nathaniel is 5. So what's the point of this photo? Other than the fact that I'm a mom, and which mom doesn't have a photo ready to show? When my well-being is impacted, whether positively or negatively, by extension, theirs is as well. So when I am thriving, they're thriving. They have a mom who's available, who's present, who's happy, and who is feeding into them more so than probably they need. When my well-being is impacted, when things are off kilter, they are impacted by that as well. And I'd like for you all to think about the impact that you have on individuals within your organization and how you feed into them, how their well-being is impacted, and the fact that it's not just about that individual, but it's all the people that they love and all the people who are close to them and how they, by extension, are impacted. So when I'm having a difficult time and I get into the car and I ran to Andrew on the drive home, it doesn't stop there, right? The younger ones, they hear parts of the conversation, as careful as we are. They see the tension and they feel that something is off. And they recognize that, maybe that's not the type of work I want to go into when I get older, or maybe that's not the company that I want to be a part of. So something to think about as we lead others and as we think about ways that we can impact our well-being and be role models, but how we're impacting others' lives as well. So the 3 things I'd like for you to take away today is, in my opinion, and I'm sure many of you, if not all, agree, the best leaders are role models. The best leaders are not the leaders who tell you what to do. They're the leaders who take you along the journey. And they're willing to share where they are today, how they've gotten there, the lessons that they've learned along the way, and help you be the best version of yourself. So the 3 focus areas are on 1, learners. The best leaders are continuous learners. They're always looking for ways to learn something more. And the best leaders are in this room. You're here today because you want to continue to learn. You want to be able to help others continue to learn. And the learning today has been really good. I have quite a few photos, lots of notes, lots of aha moments. But the fact that you've dedicated the time to be here speaks to the fact that you're continuous learners. And how are you role modeling that for others? Whether they're your team on the HR team, extended teams, leadership teams, how are you encouraging and motivating and inspiring them to be learners as well? Not only about well-being, but just overall enrichment. And then, of course, inclusivity. I listened to your talk, Matt, and I'll probably repeat some of the words that you used. But how can we ensure that every voice is heard? How can we ensure that the way that we interact with everyone on our team, everyone that we have an opportunity to impact, how can we ensure that the experience is seamless? How can we ensure that we're not setting the tone where some individuals feel, she treats me a little bit differently than the other one? And then balance. And balance doesn't always mean perfect, as in this photo. Balance for me was going to bed after midnight last night so that I could FaceTime with every child at the end of the day, made sure that everyone was in the house, did a quick FaceTime. It meant I got less sleep, but it was important to me to get less sleep to be with them. And I have a plan of catch up. I know you can't catch up on sleep, but I've convinced myself that you can. So balance is not always 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10. But recognizing when you're out of balance is also important, right? Having that mindset and recognizing that if you're off balance, having that plan to get back on, and recognizing what's the give and take. What are some of the times that you might need to do less of one thing? That is a good thing, because that will set you up for a better plan later on. So I know we all read, so I'm not going to read the slides for you, but I definitely want to talk to you about evolution and change. I was part of an organization where I was brought in to replace a 15-year veteran. So it was the head of HR who had retired, well-loved by the organization, and I was brought in for change. I was ready for the assignment. I understood the assignment. I was equipped. I had the experience. I was ready to deliver. And I had a team that was not willing to get on board. So I had an uphill battle. What I did have was a leader who believed in me and a leadership team who supported me. But the team that I was bringing on the journey, my own team, there was a lot of resistance. During that time, my well-being was negatively impacted. There were a lot of tumultuous conversations. There were a lot of sabotaging. There were a lot of things that were done by my own team to prevent me from being successful. The balance there for me was knowing that the founder of the organization and the leadership team understood the assignment. They understood what I had ahead of me, and they supported me. So those were the days I was in the car venting to Andrew, and I'm sure the team was doing the same. I'm sure they were talking behind my back among themselves. I'm sure their well-being were impacted as well, because I was changing how they worked. I was changing job description, job titles, role responsibilities. I was doing what was necessary for the organization. However, I was impacting their apple cart, if you will. Things were off kilter for them. They had a nice, cushy arrangement, and here I am coming in and talking about we're moving from a specialist model to a generalist model. This is what each fitness center needs. This is the support that we will provide, and these individuals were not on board. Now, over about a 6 to 8 month period, I had a 75% turnover on my team, and that's a lot. And it impacted me, it impacted each location, each member of the leadership team, certainly the individuals on the team who left and those who stayed. But at the end of the day, we got to a better place. We got to a really good place. The organization thrived. Our mission and vision for the HR team was perfectly aligned with that of the organization. Employees were a lot more engaged than they had been. The performance management process was redone to a point where any employee in the organization understood what they were measured by and understood what they needed to do to meet and or exceed expectations. But it was truly an uphill battle getting there. The real success was when I left the organization. One of the individuals who stayed on the team, who I thought would have been the first to go based on one of the very tumultuous meetings that we had, was my successor. He not only stayed on the team, he got on board, he took the training that was necessary to bring him to the next level. He saw the vision, he lived the vision. And about a year ago, he called me to, one, thank me for my leadership, thank me for believing in him and recommending him as my successor when I moved on. And he took a role outside of the organization, a really big role for him, based on the fact that, one, he recognized that change was needed. He took the opportunity to soak up the training, and to this day, I still keep in touch with many of the individuals who stayed on the team. The others are probably someplace right now talking about me, negatively impacting their well-being. But the point is, not every story ends perfectly. I'm telling you, it was uphill. We listened to the keynotes this morning, right? We know that a lot of us go through different stories that end in ways that are better than we thought they would end in. But how are we staying focused and recognizing how we can impact well-being? When we talk about fear treatment and we talk about psychological safety, I know in this room, many of us can recite what's important as it relates to psychological safety. I'll tell you a story about being a part of an organization where I was in my second global role. I had a nice job, I had a nice team, and my entire focus was success. We will deliver. I will prove every day that I deserve to be in this job and that I have the best team and that I am supposed to be here and you're going to see my results. Well, that meant I was driving really hard. And this was before burnout, so the question before 2010 versus 2024. So this was 2008, 2009. So burnout wasn't really a thing. It was a thing, but it wasn't mentioned in those ways. But I was definitely headed for burnout based on how I was working. This was also before I was married, so I was a single mother of two, my two oldest, and I was juggling a lot. I had a soccer star, a dancer, a really demanding job, only one taking care of these two children, but I am killing it at my job. One Friday morning, I'm with my team, and one of my team members said, Prudence, why do all of your emails have ASAP in them? You ask for what you want, and you want it ASAP, no context. Ooh, I felt that. And so I took that as one, there's psychological safety on the team where she felt safe to speak up. She knew that I wouldn't be defensive, and she knew that I wouldn't hold it against her. But my entire drive home, I kept thinking about what am I going to do different between today, Friday, and next Friday. So I spent the weekend putting together a 30, 60, 90-day plan for the HR team. Not to share with the HR team, to share with my manager. And I was reporting to the CFO at the time. And we had our one-on-one on Monday, and I presented it to him. I said, I need to change something on the team. You know, I am driving really hard, and quite frankly, I never really checked in with you to see if I'm focused on the right things. So these are the things that I believe should be accomplished to support the organization over the next 30, 60, 90, and I'd like us to have biweekly check-in to make sure that we're on the same page and that what I'm driving towards is truly what the organization needs. Thankfully, I wasn't too far off, but there were some tweaks. And by the time I got with the team again, I was able to outline for them what that meant for them. What that meant was I had a couple of people who changed their hours. There were people on the team who needed different working hours to be successful, but I wasn't focused on that, right? I was in from 8 to 5. I didn't take lunch. I had my lunch delivered every day. I recognized that they needed to take lunch. I didn't interfere with that, but it was boom, boom, boom. What are we getting done? What are we producing? We got to the point of these are our goals. These are the deliverables. These are the dates that we will check in on them. This is how we will communicate. And there was a happier team. Being in my office and hearing laughter right outside of my office. I didn't recognize that that was missing before, but I certainly recognized it when I heard it. And recognizing that I have everything I need. And to this day, I don't put ASAP in an email. I over-communicate, and I always list the deadline. We need this by this date but because one person spoke up on the team, one person found it necessary to give me feedback, and I had a leader who said, yeah, these are important, these are not so much. Oh, and add this. That two-way communication, and not only on my team, but me taking the opportunity to have that discussion at a higher level, made a difference for me and for individuals on the team as well. And then when we talk about balance, my best story about this, my current manager rolls her eyes sometimes when I talk about my previous manager. So prior to COVID, I spent about 5 years in the health and fitness space, and I had an amazing leader. One, because he valued HR, he gave me total autonomy. I went through a lot of transition with the organization. It wasn't an easy job, right? I don't think there are many easy HR jobs, but at the same time, I felt that I was valued. I felt that I was needed on the team. My opinion mattered, and I felt that I was learning and growing. And so I had a really great time on that team. But the part of this particular time that I was with this organization was the leader shared with me a health journey that he was on prior to me joining the organization. And he shared with me how through diet, exercise, and sleep, he was able to get off medication. And I can't remember where the story started, but I remember thinking to myself, holy moly, I myself have some health concerns that are hereditary. And so I leaned into the conversation with him, and of course we had a bonding moment. But what came from that was he became my accountability partner. I shared with him my struggles with diet, exercise. I'm married to a chef, so the whole weight loss thing is tough. And being an individual who's type A and really driven to succeed, making time for exercise was not always my priority. And being in HR, I would never think about being at work and then changing into my workout clothes because, I have to be professional and look businesslike all day. But what he did was he started working out at work. We were in a fitness center and I was working out elsewhere because I didn't want anyone to see me in workout clothes. He became my role model in that Tuesdays and Thursdays, he would work out in the club. I would do it at 5:45 though. I started working out in the club as well. I still wouldn't do it in business hours, but he became my accountability partner in those ways. He already did what he needed to do to improve his health, but he was willing to role model and meet me where I am to help me get there. And to this day, I still have a very soft spot for him. We text all the time. We definitely keep in touch, even though it's been 3.5 years later. But I really looked forward to Thursday mornings at 11 because all my one-on-ones with him would start with a personal check-in. And the first few weeks, it was kind of like, yeah. And then after a while, I realized that he actually had it on his agenda. How's your diet? How's your sleep? How's your exercise? And sharing and having that back and forth. Recognizing that I had someone who believed in me, wanted me to be better, unrelated, this is before we got to the work, unrelated to the job, I worked so much smarter for the organization. I listened so much closer to what was happening in the business. I paid really close attention to ways in which I could help the organization do better and how I could level up because I recognized that I had someone who cared about me as an individual. But it also allowed me to be a role model for my team, right? And to do the same for them, to recognize who's really into fitness, who's doing walking lunches, what are some of the ways that we can have quarterly fitness challenges, and how can we ensure that we are doing what you're all doing in this room and stepping out and continuing to learn and grow and network and meet others. So in those 3 stories that I just shared, in every instance, I was able to show up smarter and better for the organization because of personal connections, because of two-way conversation. And I don't think that's too unique. I'm sure there are others of you in this room who have similar conversations and similar examples. But what I'd like to encourage you all to do is continue to learn. I don't think we have a choice. Being in HR continues to change around us, and so we are almost forced, if you will, to continue to level up, to continue to ensure that we know what's happening in the world around us, and especially as it relates to HR. And for those of us like myself, I support HR across 23 different countries, and my head spins when there was a panelist earlier talking about having, I think it was 30% of the LT in France who resigned and, not having that payout. And some of the countries are just so complex. Thankfully, I'm a part of a small organization in Seattle that has a wealth of resources globally that help me do my job so much better. But of course, being in HR, I want to have the knowledge and I want to continue to not only level up myself, but encourage my team to do the same. And I encourage you all to continue to learn and learn about your jobs, but also wellness, like what's new and different. Gone are the days of 60-minute classes. It's all 45 and 30-minute workout classes now. There are individuals who meditate for 20 minutes a day, and some do 5. For me personally, I do a gratitude journal. I'm on day 847 of writing in my gratitude journal. I have the 5-minute app. And I do 3 things in the morning that I'm grateful for, 3 things at night that I'm grateful for. And I put in there my mantra, if you will, for the day. And then at the end of the day, what's the one thing that I wish I had accomplished, right? What's the one thing I wish I had accomplished? And movement is in there too often recently, and so I need to get back there. But I share that often with others that I connect with. And I really ensure that I highlight others who are runners. I love the runners. God bless you all if you are runners. There are different individuals on the team, regardless of where they're in the world. Even in Las Vegas, they have to get their run in. And I admire that so much. But we all have something that we're doing as it relates to how we learn and grow. And how are we sharing that to be able to enrich someone else? And certainly as it relates to inclusion, not only your behaviors, but what are you seeing that you're not correcting? So how are you leading? How are you showing up? And how are you being accountable? How are you holding others accountable who are not inclusive? Those who are not letting all the voices speak, right? And I know it's really difficult for those of you in hybrid or remote environments when you have all those squares on your screen. But one of the things that I do is I start with a different individual for sharing, right? Sometimes I start at the top, sometimes I start at the bottom, sometimes I start in the middle. Give a different person an opportunity to start. Not only just listening to every voice, but making it as inclusive as possible and helping others recognize that their voices are valuable, their being on the team and their being a part of the organization is meaningful and helping them feel included. And then your work-life practices, right? Sharing those and encourage others to share. And when others are really killing it, give them kudos and give them the opportunity to have their voices heard and to be celebrated and help others recognize that they're individuals who are taking care of their well-being. And, there'll be tips. Individuals will get tips, and you'll have a richer and more a thriving organization. Thank you all so much for your time. I certainly appreciate the attention. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. That's the QR code. And then I also have other social handles for those of you who are there.